Good evening. Welcome to the City of Lancaster Inauguration Ceremony and Organizational Meeting of the Lancaster Home Rule Study Commission. My name is Barry Hanwerger. I'm the City Solicitor. The rules and regulations set forth in our law don't really govern who starts this meeting, and since apparently I know more about the law than some others, I was asked to do so tonight. So it's my pleasure and honor to conduct this inauguration meeting. With that, Mr. Harris, if you could just take a roll of who is at the dais, please.
Yes, Mr. Hanwerger. Brian Adams.
Here.
Peter Barber.
Here.
Darlene Bird.
Here.
Maxine Cook.
Here.
Tony Dastra.
Here.
Elizabeth Elias.
Here.
Carl Feldman.
Here.
John McGran.
Here.
And Amy Rufo.
Here.
Thank you. We're going to move to the Pledge of Allegiance tonight. We're going to bypass an invocation until this commission, as it determines moving forward whether it wants to have an invocation as part of its meetings. That is traditionally something we've done with the City of Lancaster administrative meetings for City Council and other entities, but this commission has to set its own rules. So tonight, while we normally might do that, that will be something you will decide going forward in future meetings. With that, let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd invite Mayor Deneen Sirachi to provide a few remarks for us this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Hanwerger. Before we go forward, I want to just give Mr. Harris an opportunity to let everyone know that this meeting is being recorded and all the rest of the...
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This meeting is being recorded and it's being live streamed, and as a public meeting, it's there for all to see. If you would take the opportunity, you can turn off your electronic devices at this point or silence them. And for those here on the dais, I wanted to point out that on the microphones, if you push the button on the microphones and you see the little red light, then that means the microphone is active.
All right, very good. Well, good evening, Commissioners. Tonight is truly a historic moment for our city, and I want to begin by, again, extending my hearty congratulations to each of you and my thanks. The City of Lancaster is truly fortunate to have individuals like you who are dedicated to the success of the city and willing to serve in this capacity, and truly I am grateful for each of your service. And in a few minutes, you will be taking your oath of office, and your work as an independent study commission will begin in earnest. As commissioners, you will set the parameters of the work, the timeline, the budget, the process. Moreover, you will set the tone of the conversation we will have as a community regarding home rule. I have little doubt that tone will be one of collegiality and curiosity as you begin this journey. The role, as you know, of the administration is limited. However, I am here tonight to offer support in the following ways. To prepare and submit an application on your behalf to the Department of Economic and Community Development Strategic Management Planning Program to offset costs related to the research and facilitation services you will need. Before we can submit that proposal, however, the Commission must first select a provider of research and facilitation services. A proposal from the Pennsylvania Economy League was forwarded to you on June 1st for your review and consideration. The Pennsylvania Economy League has extensive track record supporting study commissions, and you will have an opportunity to discuss their proposal later in tonight's agenda. And we are here tonight with 3 members of the Pennsylvania Economy League staff. We will also, on behalf of the administration, provide timely responses to requests for financial data and other information you may need to help guide and direct your deliberation. We will also provide the services of Mr. Harris, City Clerk, to capture notes from meetings and prepare meeting minutes. Further, Mr. Harris will ensure that recordings of the proceedings of the Study Commission, if held in this room, are publicly available. And I want to thank Council President Bakay for her concurrence in offering Mr. Harris's support. He does excellent work, and we're appreciative of that. Additionally, provide legal expertise. Mr. Handwerger is here tonight and will serve at the pleasure of the Study Commission. He has extensive municipal law experience, and he can draw from that experience as well as provide additional information about the operations of the city. And finally, support the preparation of a budget for the Study Commission and provide regular financial reports as needed. Our aim is to help advance the work both cost-effectively and efficiently at your direction. The needs of the commission will continue to evolve as the work evolves, and we will be responsive to any future requests of the Study Commission as we proceed. I want to just say that for this first phase of work, as you know, in the Pennsylvania Economy League proposal, we were really laying out the first 6 months of work to lead you to the point in which you will make a decision about whether or not to proceed with the drafting of a charter for the consideration of the electorate of the city of Lancaster. But because we don't know the answer to that yet, the work that's being presented and the resources that are being offered are for the first 6 months of work. And I just wanted to give you that time frame for your consideration tonight. Again, you'll have an opportunity to discuss all of this later in the agenda, but first, let's get you all sworn in. Congratulations. Thank you.
So with that, we're going to move to the swearing in of the 9 of you. And we have Judge Jody Richardson here this evening to do so.
Thank you. If you could all please stand. So we're going to start off, you're going to repeat after me, but when I say the word I, I'm going to need each of you to state your full name in its entirety. So I, and state your name,
Maxine Cook,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
obey, and defend
obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and that I will discharge
and that I will discharge
my duties
my duties
as Home Rule Study Commissioner
as Home Rule Study Commissioner
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Best wishes and congratulations.
In front of you is a written version of that oath, which I would ask that you each sign, and then you can pass down to Mr. Harris, and he will take care of the rest for those.
Going that way. It's not your social security number. What is it? It's a legal, don't worry about it. You don't have to.
You know, it's not required to fill that in.
So, in fact, you may want to cut it out.
It's okay.
I only got 2/3 of the way.
Just sign.
The petitions. Yeah. There you go.
We'll now call our organizational meeting to order. Mr. Harris, would you please take the role of the commissioners?
Yes, Mr. Handwerger. Mr. Adams. Here. Mr. Barber.
Here.
Ms. Bird.
Here.
Ms. Cook.
Here.
Mr. Dastra.
Here.
Ms. Elias.
Here.
Mr. Feldman.
Here.
Mr. McGrath.
Here.
Ms. Rufo.
Here.
All are present. This being the first meeting of this commission, the optional charter law, the home rule charter law provides that we should elect a chair and co-chair this evening. They do not have to serve the entirety, but we do need to get someone elected here tonight in those roles to at least begin our process. As you begin meeting, you will perhaps develop bylaws, perhaps develop other mechanisms for working amongst one another, but having a chair and a vice chair to facilitate the organization of meetings and communications is key. With that, I would take a motion to appoint one of you as chair. Mr. Feldman.
Thank you. I move to nominate Brian Adams as the chair of this body. Brian was the dean of faculty at Penn State Harrisburg. He is a mathematician, and I feel like his even temperament is well suited for this role.
Do I hear a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Sorry, who was the second?
Second was by Mr. McGran. Any discussion regarding that motion?
Just for clarification, is this chair the president of the study commission?
Yes.
Okay.
Can we recommend somebody else at this time, or do we have to wait?
Well, a motion has been made and a second has been made. So if that is voted up, then we would have a chair. If it's voted down, then we would move to another motion to appoint somebody else. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, can we have a roll call vote, Mr. Harris?
Yes, Mr. Hamburger. Mr. Adams. Mr. Barber.
Aye.
Ms. Bird.
No.
Ms. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. Dastra.
No.
Ms. Elias.
Aye.
Mr. Feldman.
Aye.
Mr. McGran.
Aye.
Ms. Rufo.
Aye.
The motion carries. We would now move to the, looking for a motion for the appointment of a vice chair or vice president.
I motion to nominate Amy Rufo as vice chair.
Motion by
I-
Mr. Dastra to
I-
appoint Ms. Rufo as vice chair. Do I hear a second?
I second it.
Second by Ms. Byrd. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, can we have a vote, please? Mr. Harris.
Mr. Adams.
Aye.
Ms. Barber. I'm sorry, Mr. Barber.
Aye.
Ms. Bird.
Aye.
Ms. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. Dastra.
Aye.
Ms. Elias.
Aye.
Mr. Feldman.
Aye.
Mr. McGran.
Aye.
Ms. Rufo.
Aye.
That motion carries. Congratulations to both of you. Before I turn the meeting over to you, I want to talk a little bit about scheduling of meetings and where we go. The law again provides that we need to set forth a regular schedule of meetings. That doesn't provide for any frequency. A real expectation here is that at some point you're going to move to multiple meetings in a month. At the outset, until you determine as a group what your meeting schedule will be, which will be based on how you determine you want to proceed. You might want to work in committees, you might want to work as a whole. There's going to be a series of work that has to be done. My recommendation is that we set, so that we can get them advertised right now, monthly meetings with the expectation that as you decide you want to move with more meetings, we will then be able to advertise them. This facility is clearly open on the first Thursday of every month, which would put a monthly meeting starting July 6th. I am suggesting that date for the following reason. There are some things that we are going to want to do collectively here over the next couple of weeks before that meeting, so that that meeting can be a very productive work meeting. One of which is to have some sessions with me regarding public records, Sunshine Act, and other laws that you are going to be complied and compelled to comply with during this process. And I would propose that we do that next week. Secondly, you're going to have to work through and develop some work plans read some materials that may be provided to you if you elect to utilize the consultant that's before you this evening, or make other determinations as to how to proceed, including working with bylaws. So that would be my recommendation to start, to at least get those on the calendar, and then we can, from that point forward, fill in the remainder of your calendar. And I would invite some discussion and thoughts on that. But that's our recommendation, to at least have some target meetings. Those are the minimums, I would note, not the maximums. And was trying to pick dates that were, I didn't want to push you too far into July and keep you up and moving here relatively quickly. I do expect that you're going to have a considerable amount of work to do behind the scenes in terms of education of yourselves over the next several weeks, which would lead to a productive meeting on July 6th.
Some of the work that you're going to do with us will be helping us get up to speed in the sunshine laws, is that correct?
That is correct.
Is the Thursday absolute? And I mean, is there Thursdays, if it creates a conflict? I'm just wondering, are there any other days available?
We will be able to change dates. So one of the expectations here is that I would expect that at some point you may want to, we're offering this space, and we'll make the space as available as we can depending on the night. We obviously have City Council, Zoning Hearing Board, Planning Commission, Historical Review Commission, Historical Architectural Review Board, which are just 5 of the 30 boards and commissions that meet in this room. But we will be able to move some of them and make space for you. I also expect that at some point you are probably going to elect to have meetings in other locations, not just here at City Hall, but in other areas around the city. And so we will be scheduling on different dates and different times as you desire moving forward. Again, we just picked that one as a starting point to begin fleshing out a schedule.
Thank you.
Are these meetings being proposed for evening meetings?
I would suggest evening meetings, again, because that is generally the most available for the general population to view and participate, and I would expect that it may be for this group as well.
I would like the commissioners to consider meeting maybe a time or two prior to the first Thursday in July,
Yeah.
before we're presenting to the public.
Well, you can't meet without being in the public.
Okay,
So that's part of what we have to talk about, is we are going to have an information session with me, and we're going to schedule that, where I'm going to talk to you about the Sunshine Act and the Public Records Act. But under the Sunshine Act, you as a body have to meet publicly.
so I do agree that the commission would meet once a month, but prior to that, I think we should set up something to meet prior to, in some kind of way, whether it's, it be in public, as you mentioned, but also a few times before the July 6th.
Are you suggesting we have like a working meeting before, like a more
Yes.
in-depth working meeting? I guess I would suggest that perhaps we all need to get through the sunshine law training first.
Mhm.
I don't know how quickly how everyone's schedules are and yours. And do you do those one-on-one, or are they?
No, that's going to be with the group. I will be proposing that we do that through Teams and or Zoom next Wednesday evening, if that will work for everybody.
Next Wednesday.
Next
What's the
Wednesday.
date?
And again, when additional meetings are fine. I'm looking to try and get a set monthly meeting that we get on schedule to at least have as targets to begin.
Wednesday, the 14th, at what time are you suggesting?
I hadn't gotten as far as that with you yet. We're jumping ahead, but I'm looking at probably somewhere between 6 and 7 o'clock. If that would work for the group, I'm flexible. I can make that work pretty much any time in the evening.
Next week doesn't work for me at all. I'm away at a conference.
Well, then you and I would have to get together at a separate time if we can get the rest of the bulk of the group together.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the first Thursday of the month as a regular business meeting, and that we can add additional times and dates beyond that after we've settled a regular meeting.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Feldman, second by Mr. Dastra. Any discussion? Hearing none, can we take a vote, Mr. Harris?
Yes, Mr. Hanweger. Mr. Adams.
Aye.
Mr. Barber.
Aye.
Ms. Byrd.
Aye.
Ms. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. Dastra.
Aye.
Ms. Elias.
Aye.
Mr. Feldman.
Aye.
Mr. McGrann.
Aye.
Ms. Rufo.
Aye.
The motion carries. I note that as I move to that, I did not note the appointment of a secretary. Now, Ms. Sirachi, the mayor, indicated that Mr. Harris would serve in that role. You can make a motion to formally appoint him, or you can just allow that to continue to happen. It was assumed that you would want that, but if somebody would like to make that motion, it would document the record properly.
I will make a motion to appoint Mr. Bernie Harris as our secretary.
Is there a second?
I second.
Ms. Rufo, second. Any discussion? Hearing none, can we take a vote, please?
Mr. Adams.
Aye.
Mr. Barber.
Aye.
Ms. Byrd.
Can I ask a question? As we meet and we decide that needs to change, are we allowed to change that, or are we stuck with, no offense, with Bernie for the whole 6 months? I just need to know that.
The answer is yes, and I'm going to give you part of your first lessons towards Robert's Rules of Order, which is once the motion is called, no further discussion can be had. But that's part of what we're going to talk about. It's all good. But the answer is yes. Everybody that serves here serves at your pleasure, so you will be able to, as a body, make motions to change things as we move forward.
Yeah, aye.
Aye.
Ms. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. Dastra.
Aye.
Ms. Elias.
Aye.
Mr. Feldman.
Aye.
Mr. McGrann.
Aye.
Ms. Rufo.
Aye.
So what we've been doing to date is following Robert's Rules of Order. And again, you are going to work in your next meetings as to how you're going to operate. I would make a recommendation that we formally adopt those this evening. Again, they are subject to change. What Robert's Rules of Order really does is assure that there's an orderly method to discussion and deliberation by the commission. It's meant to assure that essentially one person talks at a time, that motions are made and adopted in an organized manner that protect the jurisdictional rights and the procedural rights of everybody to be heard, and to assure that decisions are made in an orderly manner. There are approximately 27 editions of Robert's Rules of Order. There's probably 8 Robert's Rules of Order that will be relevant for you as we do these meetings, and that'll be part of our discussion when we have our information session. But in fact, I've been following them tonight. A motion, a second, a request for discussion, and then a vote. That's probably the most important of the rules that we'll be following with that. But again, I would recommend that we follow those rules, that you follow those rules, and if somebody would want to make that motion, I would certainly entertain it.
I'll make a motion that we adopt Robert's Rules of Order as our rules of procedure.
Is there a second?
I would second that.
Hearing a motion in a second, is there any discussion?
Just, can I have a question? So just
Sure.
to make sure I understand, when you talked about how you'll review that with us, will that be more or less training for anybody who's not familiar with how that works?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
What is the implications of adopting Robert's Rules of Order for public participation?
Robert's Rules doesn't impact public participation. What impacts public participation is the Sunshine Act, which will allow for public participation when there are matters to come before the agenda. The chairperson controls direction of speech, so he will be controlling under that provision of Robert's Rules of Orders when and how individuals are able to address the commission. Any further discussion? Hearing none, can we have a vote, please?
Mr. Adams.
Aye.
Mr. Barber.
Aye.
Ms. Byrd.
Aye.
Ms. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. Dastra.
Aye.
Ms. Elias.
Aye.
Mr. Feldman.
Aye.
Mr. McGrann.
Aye.
Ms. Rufo.
Aye.
In conjunction with our previous discussion regarding meetings, and we've had some discussion now about the Thursdays, And I will work with everybody to schedule a session next Wednesday, and for those who can't attend that session on Wednesday, to schedule a separate session for those. It is imperative for me that all of you get all of the information you need from me to know how to conduct yourselves in these meetings and to know the laws that constrain you and also that help you to do the work that you've been elected to do. So this will be as many questions as you have and as many meetings as it takes for you to get the information you need in order to feel comfortable with doing the things that you need to do. So I will get calendar invites out to you for one next Wednesday. And I understand, Ms. Cook, you can't make next Wednesday, so we need to look at a separate session. And for any of you that want to attend even a second one, I hope you find them helpful. I think Mr. Dastra can attest that
Oh, yeah,
they
no,
do a little bit of help. They do provide a little bit of assistance. So we'll get there. With that, we do have with us tonight Kelly Robertson, the executive
Actually,
director.
may I interrupt just one second?
Sure.
While we set Thursdays for a monthly meeting, we didn't set a time. Is it possible to make it 7 o'clock
It is.
instead of 6?
That's the pleasure of this commission.
Okay, thank you.
Can I, and then just one more question related to scheduling me. So to Ms. Cook's question earlier, once we've all been appropriately trained, if we would like to add a meeting of some nature between now and the July 6th meeting, that option's available to us as long as we get it properly announced and scheduled and all that. Is that true?
Properly announced, advertised, and scheduled. That's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
What is properly announced, advertised, and scheduled?
Thank you.
Well, that's again part of what we're going to be discussing in the meetings. There's a series of things that the Sunshine Act requires, including notice to each of you, notice posted here at City Hall, and most importantly, notice published in the paper. We also have to publish agendas at least 24 hours in advance on the city's website. So there's a series of things that we'll be discussing about that.
24.
Okay, I was just wondering if it was like weeks in advance or days. That's what I was trying to get my hands around.
Commission members for a special meeting must be given a minimum of 24 hours advance notice. We cannot physically get something advertised and generally without at least 3 to 5 days advance notice given the newspaper's publication schedule.
Is it necessary for us to take a vote on the time that was proposed?
I think so.
I would appreciate if we would. We keep, we're going here, which is good. It's having discussion and we're getting into lots of places. But yes, if someone would like to make a motion for the time of the meeting on Thursday evenings, we can certainly take that.
I would
I'll
like
make
to
a
make
motion that we meet at 7 PM on the first Thursday.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Yes. So this is just for Thursday, or is this every month it's going to be at 7 o'clock on the first Thursday? What are we,
My understanding is that would be every month. I just have a conflict with before 7. I wouldn't be able to get here before 7 on Thursdays, that's all, through the fall, till the end of the year.
so it's for every first of the month?
That's my assumption.
Okay.
So it's for July, August, September, October,
Okay.
November.
I just need that
Yep.
clear. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, before we go further, we said first Thursday, now we're saying 7 o'clock. That's all good. I like all of it. I don't want the next question to be like, well, where do we meet? And I just think we can all kind of agree that we don't need to vote on that. We'll probably meet here, and if we want to set additional meetings, we can.
The original motion was for, as we had indicated per discussion, was for them all to be here as the original advertisement. Additional meetings, those can be changed. Again, you would have to advertise a change of location. And additional meetings do not have to be held here at City Hall. They can be held in other places, but we have to announce them as part of the advertisement. So as you're fleshing out schedules, and meetings can always be changed, but again, we have to note it. And again, the law only requires that we at least set a base schedule tonight. That can still be changed later. So this is, again, just to get you target dates to get us to our next steps.
I think it makes sense for us to have one meeting here a month at a set time, we can always determine to have we're definitely going to meet more than once a month, so we can determine other places we can meet at different times if we need to.
Agreed.
So the current motion pending is for those Thursday meetings to be held at 7 o'clock in the evening. Is there any further discussion on that?
Yes, and I just want to make sure that we will be able to have meetings in the public. I mean, I personally would like some of our monthly meetings to be taken out to the community and to the public, and maybe we have our side meeting here sometime, but I think being able to inform the public that it's going to be the first Thursday and giving them plenty of notice that there will be a meeting on the first Thursday out in the community, I think we will reach more people.
I guess what I was trying to say is the once a month, it would be here,
Right.
and the other meetings, which we have yet to determine, that I would think we would decide on the 6th, maybe before, I don't know, but that the other meetings we're meeting elsewhere in the community.
Right.
And that we would have to make sure that we're picking places that have technology and technology support that perhaps is not charging us for that, so.
I will add that if we have meetings outside of this room and we need support for zero cost, I'm willing to utilize my equipment to make sure we have services. If we want to live stream, though, I will need an internet connection.
Cool.
That's good.
So again, we have a motion and a second on the issue of whether we're going to have the meetings at 7 PM on the first Thursday.
Mr. Solicitor, I have one more question.
Certainly.
So when I was reading through Chapter 29, I just want to make sure I understand something because we've had some discussion about meeting privately. Section 2920 says about hearings in public forums. Not that I'm saying it only requires us to have one public meeting and we should keep it at that, but it does mention may hold private hearings.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So again, we'll be discussing this as we move forward, but those are hearings where you're investigating issues regarding the operations of the government, where there might be things that are confidential or otherwise. So again, that's not for the purposes of what we're talking about here, which is your general discussion, but that's one of your enumerated powers to be able to gather information.
Okay.
And for clarity for me, I want to make sure that the meetings that we have in the public would include the whole commission, because my understanding is we could break down into committees and have committees that are having meetings that would not be held here. Is that correct?
So again, you can hold your meetings anywhere as long as they're advertised for that location. We're going to spend a good part of our discussion next week talking about the Sunshine Act requirements as it relates to committees who also have to do their work in public. Committees of the commission are just as bound to the Sunshine Act as the commission as an entity. But you will be able to have meetings anywhere we want to have them as long as they're available to the public and open to the public.
Seems good.
Any further discussion on the pending motion, which is to hold the meetings on the one stated meeting a month on the first Thursday of each month at 7 PM? Hearing none, can we take a vote on that motion, please?
Mr. Adams?
Aye.
Mr. Barber?
Aye.
Ms. Byrd?
Aye.
Ms. Cook?
Aye.
Mr. Dastra?
Aye.
Ms. Elias?
Aye.
Mr. Feldman?
Aye.
Mr. McGrann?
Aye.
Ms. Ruffo?
Aye.
And that motion again carries. Thank you. Moving on, I believe we have Ms. Kelly Robertson here this evening, the Executive Director of the Governor's Center for Local Government, who's going to talk a little bit about this process and the next item on our agenda, which is the Pennsylvania Economy League.
I think we just got Ms. Roberts off the start, so I'm gonna, please come, would you mind to the podium? Ms. Roberts, I was hoping that you might just share with the commission your work at DCED and your experience working with Pell as it relates to supporting other communities that have been going through home rule. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm quite surprised. I thought I was just going to be able to be a participant. Let me see. As far as DCED is concerned, we are here to support you through this entire process. We will help you in any way that we possibly can. We will be probably either myself or Andrew Sheaf will be attending your meetings and be present. So if you do have any questions or need any additional information, we will provide that. We have also provided the booklets that are in front of you that have all the information about home rule. That is also on our website, so if anyone else would like a copy of that, you can have a copy of that, and I think also you've attached it to your own website. So all the information is there, and that should give you a great working knowledge of what needs to happen or what we're looking to happen. And along with the meeting that you will be having with your attorney next week, you should be in great shape to get started. So congratulations, and I welcome the opportunity of working with you to see what happens.
Thank you for the booklets as well.
Thank you. So commission members, I believe you were given, in advance of this meeting, a proposal from the Pennsylvania Economy League. As Mayor Sirachi indicated, they came recommended to us and to you by DCED, and they have done multitude of home rule projects throughout the state. We have with us Gerald Cross and some other folks from the Economy League to tell you a little bit tonight about themselves, and then you can tonight elect to make a motion to appoint them. Again, that would be the city paying that fee. You don't have to. I want to tell you that. That is your option. What Jerry will talk to you about a little bit tonight is the process that he would follow with you to help you answer a lot of the questions you have right before you now as to how we move this process forward, what your options are, how to guide you. That's what they're the experts in, and they've done it more than anybody else. So with that, I'd ask Gerald if you would come to the podium.
Thank you, Attorney. Commissioners, congratulations on your commitment and dedication to this process. It's an important process. As Barry said, my name is Gerald Cross. With me tonight is Fred Reddick and Patty Moorhead. They will be the main staff members along with myself working with the commission under our proposal. The Economy League is a 501c3 organization. We're 87 years old. We operate throughout Pennsylvania. We have local representation, local committees of our membership. We also do work with many municipalities. As mentioned, we have a lot of home rule staffing experience, both on a city, borough, and county level. So we do understand the process. We are able to walk you through the process, particularly the first 6 months, as the mayor mentioned. You will be studying whether or not the current form of government of the city of Lancaster is adequate to efficiently and effectively provide government services to its citizens. That's your main charge. And if you decide to change that form of government, you will have an additional time to actually sit down, discuss the pros and cons of what you learned during your study, apply those lessons to a charter, which becomes the operating instructions, the constitution, if you will, of the new municipality. And of course, a referendum has to be held for that. But it's important for you to understand your role is to study. We will be available under the proposal to provide information, research services, for any number of hours, any number of topics that you need. As long as we can provide you with the study guides, your commitment to the process will be what you get from it and your educational value towards the development of that question, whether or not you proceed forward or not.
Any questions for Mr. Cross?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Darlene.
Ms. Byrd?
yes. Number one, are you going to meet individually or only as a group? If I was going through and I had some questions and I needed some clarity, would I be able to reach out to you and ask, or is that something that's going to happen as a group?
Well, we would be performing as your staff, and we would be performing under the rules and the procedures adopted by the commission. Some commissions allow individual contact. Some commissions say, if one talks, we all have to talk, or we all want to hear the same, the game of telephone. So you want to all hear the same thing at the same time, but we will be working with you under your rules.
All right. And when's the last time you took a municipality through the home rule charter?
2019 to 2020, there was a election in Schuylkill County to empower a government study commission. It was a borough. We served as the staffing for that, and that was approved by the voters in June of 2020.
And did you ever serve a third-class city?
Yes, we worked in the city of Nanticoke on their home rule charter. We have worked in, I'm losing my memory now, but yeah, we have. Johnstown, Altoona. We worked in Altoona. Yeah, there's a lot of municipalities in this Commonwealth. What's that? Plymouth Township. Yeah, we've done of the main categories of municipalities. We have worked in those, so we understand the strengths and weaknesses of each form of government and how it provides services to the citizens or representation to the citizens.
Thank you.
Ms. Rufa?
Yes, have you worked with municipalities who are not in that Act 47 or whatever it is? Who are being proactive like we are?
Yes.
Yeah, we actually, one of our missions was, we have been Act 47 coordinators for over 9 towns throughout Pennsylvania, and most of them cities.
I think the question specifically, though, is that I think Lancaster is interested in exploring this because we are not in Act 47. We don't wish to go into Act 47, and we want to explore ways to avoid it. And are you saying you have served municipalities that were not already in Act 47 prior to exploring the home rule process?
We have worked both with the home rule process generated by citizens or as a normal course of action, or as an outgrowth of the Act 47 plan. So yes, on both.
My question's about size. There was an article a few weeks ago in the Lancaster paper about Pittston moving to home rule. And while interesting and very insightful, I think it said their population was 9,000. Our population is a little bit short of 60,000, and that brings up a very different approach or a very different demographic. And I'm just wondering about size, experience with cities similar to Lancaster. Now, I'm not familiar with Altoona, the population of Altoona. But
they're in the 30s. Yeah, it's 30,000 some, yeah.
Okay.
Nanticoke is around 14. Now, I worked in Scranton for many years. There are 80,000 people.
Scranton is one that
Scranton's a home rule, but it's a home rule since the 70s. There was a wave of home rules, and the Economy League actually cut its teeth in those days, and when home rule was a new process.
Okay.
But to answer your question, I think more directly, the size of the municipality is directly related to the quality, or I should say quality, the type of charter you end up doing, and that involves representation, that involves budget controls, it involves processes, number of representatives, professional staff. All that would be part of your studies, and whether you find that lacking or not, and whether you want to continue it into a proposed charter.
Okay, thank you.
I may have a few questions, but I'll start with this one. How much are your services going to cost?
I believe the proposal is $3,250 a month, which includes all hours, everything. We don't like to prepare these as an hourly rate.
Sure.
We rather a flat rate that doesn't change, so that there's no concern that the process is being driven by the consultant to get more months. So it's a flat rate across the board, regardless of the time we put in and how long you need to use us as staff.
And this may be a question, I'm not sure if you would know the answer to this question, but I think the number $50,000 was thrown around as like we've budgeted ARPA funds for that. No?
Cross. We have not appropriated ARPA funds for these purposes. We had discussed the application to the Strategic Management Planning Program, the STAMP program through DCED. We currently have a DCED grant with a small amount remaining that would at least get us take care of, if you accept this proposal, the initial month or 2 months of cost, and then be able to roll into, again, if awarded. But ARPA funds would not be utilized for this process.
Okay. And then I guess my last question, are you three the only staff who work on this then, or are there additional members?
We have a staff member in Pittsburgh, Brian Jensen, but as far as the immediate support of this staff, it would be the three of us. And our acting executive director, Lynn Shedlock, is necessary, but this is the expertise staff for the staffing of the commission. When you have questions that require us to go outside to outside experts and everything else, we can handle that for you. We don't pretend to know everything about everything. Sure.
It would be helpful for you to know that our current Strategic Management and Planning Program grant that we received from DCED last year was to aid us in doing a series of financial projections over the next 5 years with various scenarios. That information would also be readily available to commission members as it relates to specific financial projections and other information that were part of developing those projections. So while the Pennsylvania Economy League was not involved in that process, those reports would be made available to the Pennsylvania Economy League staff and to the commission members to help guide you in your discussion, as well as any additional financial information that the administration would prepare on behalf of the commission.
Thank you.
Any further questions from the commission?
I don't have any further questions, but I just wanted to say that hearing from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that they're supportive of the work that PEL has done in the past gives me confidence in the work that you're offering to perform for us here, and so I'm comfortable with moving forward.
I have
Ms.
one
Roof.
question. Yeah. Your organization also printed or researched, it's not 1965 anymore. Were the three of you involved in that research?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I was the lead analyst on that, crunching the numbers for the thing, as well as looking at all the different things. And as far as working with different sized municipalities, we have worked not necessarily on home rule, but in the strategic management program, we've worked on, excuse me, municipalities from the size of less than 200 people to Harrisburg, to Scranton, to Exeter, and not only with municipalities that are in trouble, but ones that are okay and just want to see where they're going 5 years from now. So we do have a breadth of, we've worked with cities, townships, boroughs, everybody.
The study you referred to was sponsored by the Pennsylvania Municipal League.
I have an additional question. Yes, thank you. Besides the fact of working with other cities with similar populations, have you worked with other cities that have the similar demographics as Lancaster?
Yes, York City, Harrisburg City, Hazelton, worked in Allentown, Bethlehem, Easton, over the course of our work. Now, obviously, Easton's a home rule. They did that on their own. Some towns are smaller, to the question before, they do that on their own and offer, we get some guidance on a different basis. But yes, we work throughout Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is not homogeneous.
Thank you.
I have another question.
Ms. Byrd, first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And I just want to know, I think the mayor, you said that DCED recommended them. Did they give us a list of others, or was this the only group that they recommended? So there was an RFP sent out, and out of the ones that came out, they became the recommended one? I
No,
don't
there was
understand.
there was not a request for proposal process done for this solicitation.
Oh, it was not.
Yeah, it was not.
Okay.
But
So you just recommend.
Mr. Dastra?
So is your staff, I understand that this information is compiled for us to look as the commission, but I also feel that some members of the public may be interested in reading the content for themselves as well. Is your staff able to do Spanish translation?
we don't provide a Spanish translation.
We don't, we can look into.
We've worked with planning commission.
Mr. Dastra, the city administration would be able to provide
Yeah,
that.
we would not provide
Okay.
that. Yeah, and
Through our language access program, we can provide any
Right.
translation necessary in multiple languages.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, and likewise, the information we provide for the commission is for the commission's use. We would not take it upon ourselves to provide that publicly. It would go through the commission first. As staff to you, we would not take it upon ourselves to widely disseminate things without the commission doing it.
Sure.
Mr. McGrath?
Can you just talk for a minute about, the range of outcomes that you've seen in your work with municipalities considering home rule? How many don't go any further than the initial study, move to a referendum, and whether that referendum succeeds? And I'm not asking, I guess I'm just curious to hear you talk about that for a minute.
The pamphlet that Ms. Robinson handed out has a lot of case studies in it. It's really determined by the tenor and the reason why a home rule commission was impaneled. I'm thinking of a county in north central Pennsylvania where there was a budget problem. The county literally ran out of money because their accounting system was poor. A group of citizens got together and decided that they were not happy with the commissioners, and they put it on the ballot, and it won to the government study phase. But that commission looked at it as a political investigation. Why? And it didn't provide the citizens with enough comfort that it wasn't motivated by a desire to change the government to provide a more effective government. It was more like an end run around a commissioner's election. That failed. Some home rule commissions, and Fred could speak to this as well as anyone, some run, and the first couple of meetings they say, you know what? We didn't really want this to happen. We ran to not have it, and they vote to adjourn. So the range of outcomes is broad. In my experience, generally speaking, in the last 20 to 30 years, the trend has been towards drafting home rule charters. The law allows you to pick an optional plan. Well, you didn't have the question, I don't think. The question was a home rule charter question. But you can theoretically have a home rule charter question, optional plans question, and select from that menu. But in the last, like as I said, couple of decades, it's been home rule charter, which really is citizens taking the management and structure of their municipality away from a code of laws prepared in Harrisburg to one locally generated. And that leads to representation issues, that leads to referendum and initiative opportunities, it leads to more stricter guidelines for the operation of the government, if that's what the commission wants. The citizens then judge that. I think the record is what, Fred, maybe 500? They bat about half pass?
Yeah, more than half.
More than half pass?
If I can address that just briefly, I spent 30 years in the Department of Community and Economic Development, including 8 years as Executive Director of the Governor's Center, Kelly's position. So I had experience with local governments across the state dealing with home rule as well as other local government related issues. In terms of home rule, the home rule statute passed in 1972. And at that point, and in the next couple of years, there was really a wave of communities that felt they wanted to change their form of government, that they felt they were constrained by the borough code, by the city code, by the township code. And so they undertook the process, and the majority of those did pass. Since that first wave, incrementally, other communities, not near as great a number, but other communities have wanted to take a look internally at the operation that existed and examine whether it was working for the citizenry of the community or not working for the citizenry of the community, and making recommendations. And you know, on an annual basis, there have been maybe 2 or 3 communities that have wanted to explore home rule. And from my experience, the majority of those that start the process do end up drafting a home rule charter and then putting that before the electorate to vote upon. There have been some, as Mr. Cross has mentioned, that have been defeated, that the citizenry felt that they were comfortable with the form of government that they had. But the majority of those who start the process have typically gone through the entire process and adopted a form of government that they felt better met their needs, that they weren't constrained by the municipal codes. You know, Lancaster's been operating under the third-class city optional plan, strong mayor form of government since 1953. And, you know, I commend the citizenry of Lancaster for wanting to start a process to take a look at your current form of government, what's working, what isn't working. You know, that's your charge. And we would be glad to assist you providing research and information to assist you in that process.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you very much.
I did forget to mention that we started a new engagement on a government study commission, exactly like yours, in Wilkinsburg last month. They were impaneled last November. They went through initial several months and they hired us. We've started working in Wilkinsburg, which is right next to Pittsburgh, if you're familiar with it.
yeah, I appreciate your proposal to us, and I'm grateful to have you here tonight. I don't personally feel comfortable making a decision on this. I feel like we should table this because I would like to have more tangible numbers on what's the budget we have to work with, and furthermore, if any private entities or other public entities would like to contribute to the pool of funds in order to pay for your services if we would like to move in that direction.
Mr. Barber?
Yeah, I mean, with all respect, Tony, I don't know that we have any necessary budget constraints that are limiting to us. And I feel like the work that we have to get done within the next 6 months needs to happen very expediently. And I worry that we're going to delay a process and lose on some valuable time in order to commit to the knowledge that we need to gain through all this. And their budget, the proposal is for about $3,600 a month.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe that the city, and Deneen, correct me if I'm wrong, but you indicated that you have allocated funds at least for the first 2 months that you know are available, plus the opportunity to gain more funds with some grants that you've already applied to, that I'm assuming you feel as though we have a pretty good chance of receiving some of those funds. I know you can't guarantee that, but I appreciate wanting to be fiscally prudent with this, but I think that there is also a need to be very prudent with the time that we have. And at this point, I think that the time pressures are going to be more relevant to us than the fiscal pressures that we have right now. So I would just make that comment before we go any further with that.
No, I appreciate that, and I understand that. My logic in waiting a month is simply because we have a lot of education to do about the process and procedures of the organization. I do understand that you guys would be getting to work right away and compiling information otherwise. But yeah, I guess I just don't feel comfortable enough making a decision right now because there seems to be some ambiguity about funds.
I have a point of order. Mr. Dastra's effectively debating a motion to table. We haven't made a motion. I mean, if he would like to make a motion to table this,
Correct. No motion has
he
been
may.
made. He's having
Then we
discussion.
can discuss it, but right now we're jumping ahead.
That's fair.
So if he would like to make a motion,
I will make that motion to table this.
Okay.
Is there a second?
No.
The motion fails for lack of a second.
Does that mean that discussion is done? Because I have more questions.
I think we need
If I
to,
can interrupt for a second, please, and I hope I'm not putting myself out there too much, or DCED out there too much, but as I did state earlier, DCED will support you and is supporting this entire home rule procedure. We cannot guarantee you any any grant funding or anything like that until you put in the applications. But one of the reasons, and I probably can say this, is that we are coming up on our budget and we're coming up on our new grant process as of July 1st. So if you have the 2 months, you would be hearing about additional grants after that. So that may be why you only have allotted for the 2 months.
Thank you.
I'd like to move that we adopt the proposal.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second to adopt the proposal. Any discussion on the motion?
I did make a motion. I did make a statement that I had other additional questions.
I understand that, Ms. Byrd. Those questions can be addressed to those. We now have had a motion made by someone on the commission and a second. So we need to deal with that motion that's now on the record.
It's probably about the subject though, right?
You can have discussion in the motion.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would hope that our home rule commissioners would respect the fact that if somebody has a question, they wouldn't just say, I'm going to make a motion and restrict the comments to the motion. I think if any of you would say you have a question, I think we would hear those questions before we would just say, let's make a motion. We're jumping to the motions and we're not getting the answers that we're asking for. So I'm just saying, if we're going to do this, you can't just say, okay, Robert's Rules of Order say, let me make a motion. I mean, let's respect each other. If we have questions to ask, let's ask the question and then make a motion.
Mr. Feldman, you've made the motion. Do you have any objections to Ms. Byrd making her statements that she referenced in that statement?
Absolutely not.
Please proceed, Ms. Byrd.
Thank you. What I was going to ask, you said it was over $3,000 for your proposal. Do we know that's in line with other companies that would do your job? I mean, it's new to me. I don't know if that's a fair value, if it's lower, if it's less. Knowing that I'm sitting here on the commission because of finances facing the city, I feel we should ask, where is that in line with what you're charging?
I can't speak for what other people would charge. It's always a question of the amount of time required. If some people charge by the hour, some people charge at a flat rate for this kind of work because it is less measured by hours than it is measured by expertise and how much help you need. So our proposal is based on our experience and our experience that a flat fee provides you with the best assistance because you're not counting hours. You're not saying, well, don't ask them that question because it costs $150.
Right.
You're saying, look, ask them. We're paying them.
Right.
And then if you don't feel we're providing the value of that month, it's up to the commission to make sure that we're providing you with the resources you need. I can't speak to how others charge and how others perform. I just know we perform.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion or any discussion on the motion?
The only comment I have to make is that I do feel comfortable with your services, but I still would like us to consider reaching out to private funders as well, to potentially get some outside of the box work done as well.
Ms. Rufo?
Yes, if this were to pass tonight, does this get signed tonight? When does this start?
It would be signed by, if the chair and the vice chair are here, we could sign it this evening, but it starts essentially upon your motion and then them signing it. So it's a contractual obligation.
And then, so that means that they're essentially our staff immediately.
Correct.
So between now and the next meeting, are we able to communicate with them?
Yes, we'll discuss that on Wednesday as well.
All right. As long as we're able to do that and we don't waste a month.
Absolutely. By approving this evening, you would have the value of their services starting immediately rather than waiting until a later time. And part of their proposal, as you've seen, is to help guide you through what the next steps are, even to get to your next meeting. So, the law doesn't make this very first process easy, folks. So we'll get through this, and then you'll figure out a way to operate effectively and efficiently.
So I have another question that's just about communicating with the public. So we're going to have this training meeting on Wednesday. Mayor, would we have the option to have a web page where we're able to say, we had this meeting with so-and-so, our training meeting, and here's some comments from those of us who attended about what we learned?
Just stay over there. Yeah.
Yes, and I neglected to include in my list of what the administration will offer in terms of support is our communications team. So we can create a dedicated page for the Home Rule Study Commission. You as a body can decide what information is posted, and that information can be shared out. We have a Home Rule page already on our website. This would be a natural extension of maintaining that. I should also say that the communication needs of this body will evolve over time, especially if you decide to advance the development of a home rule charter for the potential adoption of the electorate. There will be a whole other communication phase in which you will be guiding a communications development process, but that's farther down the road.
Sounds like your team will help us with that.
Absolutely. Any further discussion from the commission on the motion at hand? Hearing none, is there any comments from the public? So this is a public meeting, so you're taking a formal action. I would ask if you want to have comment. This is a public comment section, so the public is entitled to comment on the motion that's pending. Is there anyone that wants to, sir, please step to the podium, state your name, address, or a location, I should say.
Tim Stuhldreher, 800 block of George Street, 1 United Lancaster. Would actually ask DCED if they could comment on the economy leagues. Have they done the majority of home rule? Is there any other organization that has done a significant number of consulting services?
I don't have the exact statistics of all of the different organizations that we have used or that have been used. I can tell you in my time here at DCED, I know that this organization has done many of them, has been very successful, is highly respected, and is an organization that we do put out there or offer for our communities to use. Does that answer your question?
Yes, if you'd like to step to the podium, sir. Again, please state your name and the area in the city in which you live.
Good evening, Bill Hannigan, 300 block of College Avenue. I understand, I think we're on the approach to signing a contract, the panel's approach to signing a contract. Is there a time frame? Is this month to month? Will it be 6 months? That's something that I think setting a time frame is my question.
Yeah, I can read what it says. It says, PEL's charges for its services to the commission shall be $3,250 per month for each phase commencing upon the first meeting following PEL's appointment by the commission through the meeting at which the commission approves the final report. So there's something else in here in the terms and conditions, and you'll have to tell me if I say this incorrectly, but I think it's for the first 6 months is what we're actually contracting for, because that's the time we research. And if we decide to continue with the Home Rule Study Commission and that we have to write it, I suppose we can consider we're going to hire them again, or maybe we hire somebody else, but it would be for 6 months. Am I reading that right?
I just wanted to add that the proposal also mentions that once we enter into the agreement, they can be dismissed by a vote of the body, and then we would be responsible for the month in which they were dismissed. So we have the ability to exit to at any time.
Just a clarification as what Ms. Rufus said. This is for phase one. The way the contract's written, there's phase one and then optional phase two. So we would be committing, if I'm correct, to phase one. If we go on, we would by default, unless the commission chose to do otherwise at the time, we would continue on into phase two, but that will come after the commission votes on whether to proceed with the charter.
Any further comments from the public?
Good evening. My name is Mimi Shapiro, and I live in Lancaster City on Concord Street. I'm very interested in how this process works because the citizens of Lancaster need and want services, and in order to get those, we cannot be the only one paying for these. So I think opening the pool to spreading more money around will really help all of us in the city, and I'm very grateful for you guys stepping forward to do, this job and the amount of work that it requires. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment on the pending motion? Hearing none. Mr. Harris, can we take a vote?
Mr. Adams?
Aye.
Mr. Barber?
Aye.
Ms. Byrd?
Aye.
Ms. Cook?
Aye.
Mr. Dastra?
Aye.
Ms. Elias?
Aye.
Mr. Feldman?
Aye.
Mr. McGrann?
Aye.
Ms. Rufo?
Aye.
So the motion carries unanimously, and we will work with you to get the contractual documents completed. That concludes the items on our agenda tonight. And again, I will be posting for you our notice of when we'll get together next week on Wednesday for our information session regarding the Public Records Act, Sunshine Act, Robert's Rules of Order, and other matters before you. I would accept the motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. This meeting's adjourned, and congratulations and thank you to all of you.
What was comments? I guess he said we talked enough. They don't even know.